Hello, JM Ceramicists. We are going to go over our coil pot project, at least through making our basic shape. All right, so our goal is to make a well-made coil pot, and at the same time, you need to, there's a theme, a seasonal theme. So you need to kind of show us why one season is your favorite. We want to master the coil building technique, which I think you're really going to enjoy. That means rolling even coils, positioning those coils to create the shape you want, and of course managing our clay along the way. In our first two projects, there were some struggles, of course. You're learning this at home, but I think we're getting better. So the process is just rolling coils, stacking them, and then smoothing them together. A simple process, but it can be challenging to do well. So choose your season, whatever you like best: fall, winter, spring, summer, and for whatever reason you want. Think about what is it about that season that you like. How could you turn that into a work of art? That is our challenge. And planning is 25% of your grade. I want you to consider several different designs. Often our first idea might be a good idea, but as we think about things, as they marinate in our brain, our ideas tend to get better. Okay? Construction is 25% of your grade, so it's just got to be a nice, well-made pot. Refining it, kind of cleaning things up like we do with all our projects. And again, that's something we're learning as we go, how important that is. And then your reflection, your artist statement is going to be the final portion. So when it comes to planning, we'll do that in our sketchbooks, right? Choose your favorite season, right? And then you can list some ideas for why that might be, right? If you're doing fall, is it because you play a fall sport? You like the cool weather? Or maybe one of the fall holidays. It could be Thanksgiving, Halloween. Any reason you want. Sketch at least 3 designs, right? And then plan the shape. And you can change as you go. I mean, we are learning, right? We're doing coils for the first time. So your plan might change, which is fine. But it really does help to have a focus to begin. So you should have something like this. The title could be Seasonal Pot. If you know your season, you could call it a fall pot or whatever. Coil building is our method. And we're using stoneware again, our high fire clay. So sketch out a few different designs. One of the beautiful things about coils, as I said, is you can control the shape. So really think about getting some nice curves in there. And then choose your final design. Now we can think about how we'll get that in there as we go. So here's some examples of coil pots, right? And notice how we get these nice curves. Look at this from the bottom. It goes way out and then it kind of comes back. This is a really nice one. They even use coils for the decoration, so that's something to think about. And look at this, really curving in. A nice little lip on there. So think about how we're going to finish this as well. Will you have a lip, or will you have something more like this, like Maria Martinez? All right, so we're going to start out just like we would with we did with our tile project. We're going to roll some small slabs. So take a ball of clay. It doesn't have to be very big. Right, we smash that. Again, though, it's probably a good idea to work on fabric when you're doing this, when you're rolling the slab. For rolling the coils, a hard surface works better. But for the slab itself, if you get it on the wrong kind of a table, it will completely stick to the table, and then you'll be starting over. So just get a nice even slab, about a 1/4 inch thick or so. It's going to be our base. You can press in a template to get a circle. And then cut that out. I don't know about you, but my little home studio is getting a little messy. Probably because I had to shoot this video twice. My phone had run out of space. Alright, so once you've cut that circle, you can set that aside. And again, I like to roll on a hard surface. Now the key to rolling a nice coil, one is having nice wet clay. That does help quite a bit. If you're using harder clay, it's more of a challenge because you have to press harder. And when you press harder, it's hard to get a circle. So get that clay into a nice tight ball, and then roll it into a sausage. Okay, don't press very hard. Now press very lightly here. Don't put a lot of pressure. Now, if you do put some pressure, you want to roll it all the way. If you roll it just back and forth like this, you're going to end up flattening the sides, which isn't good. But, simple solution. Give a little twist, and you're back in business. Now, I like to stand up. I find it much easier to stand up when I'm rolling coils. And just really think, just light pressure. I actually have to tell myself, in my head, I have to say, light, light, keep it light, keep it light. Because if I start pushing, I start flattening my coils, and you hear it go. Right, you don't want that sound. You want it to just roll nicely. I always have start with way more clay than I need. So if your coil gets a little too long, you're just kind of estimating how much it's going to take to go around that base. Now, you don't want it too chunky. A guide is, the diameter of your pinky about. If you're going to have it a little thick, it's probably best to have it thick on the bottom than on the top, or it'll get heavier. So where you set your coil is going to dictate the shape of your pot. So if I set it a little bit on the outside of my pot, right, it's going to go out, right? You're going to get that. The pot's going to widen as it goes up. If you set it directly on top of the clay, of course, it can go straight. If we put it on the inside, we can bring that shape in. And you'll end up probably doing all of those things along the way. So all we have to do, since it's wet clay and a wet clay, is just press it on, and then heal that cut, right? Make sure we smooth that up, connect those two coils really good. You can see I've got mine on the outside because I want my pot to go out at the beginning. Makes sense? Get some more clay. All right. Again, get it into that sausage shape gently. Roll it. You move your hands up and down the coil as it starts to thin out. Notice how many rolls it's taking me. It's taking me a long time because I'm not putting very much pressure. When it's wide enough, I get two hands on there. As it gets thinner, find the thick spots and work those to try to get an even coil. So it's more about rolling it a lot than putting pressure on the coil. Alright, and then I got to decide, of course. Now, here's the deal. Let's go back here. You can see there's that crack right there, where the two ends came together. We do not want to start our next coil in the same spot because then we would end up with a weak spot all up and down our pot. So every time you put a new coil on, move it over a couple inches. So I'm going to start it away from there so I don't create a line of weak spots all the way up my pot. So again, I want my pot to continue going out, so I place it on the outside edge. And you can position it, right? Take your time. Don't just slap the coil on and hope it all works out. We are working with clay. Take your time. Enjoy the process. And again, you can take a look. Is it even all the way around? You can reposition the coil, you can move. And now we want to blend our coils together. Right? Even if you were going to leave the coils visible on the outside, blend it on the inside. That's going to make sure they get connected well. You don't want to get done with your coil pot, have not blended the coils, and the coils could just separate at any particular place. I've seen that happen before. Unless you want to score and slip all the coils together. So there we go. We take the thick part and we just blend that down. It certainly helps. Make sure if your finger's dry, it goes really easy. If you get kind of wet clay, then it slips. It gets a lot harder. Because the clay is wet, it might be difficult to get it perfectly smooth now, so I'm not going to concern myself with that right now. I'm going to smooth it out pretty good, though. Why not, get some of the work done, but... Okay, and then that's the process. All right, we just keep building coil after coil, positioning our coil either on the outer edge, in the middle, or on the inner edge to change the shape of the pot as we go. And you'll get pretty good at this. You get a rhythm. And notice I'm supporting the inside, right? Especially when you get up to that next coil. So my right hand is blending the two together, and my left hand is supporting that coil so I don't move it. Because you sometimes are putting some pressure on it. And again, you'll get good at this as we go. Alright. So there you go. Just think about where you position your coils. Do you want it to continue to go out? Do you want it to be straight? Or do you want the pot to start coming in at some point? So this pot's been sitting out a little while. So it's a lot stronger. You can see I can pick it up. And I've done some smoothing on it. But once we've, your pot's starting to get harder, even if it's not finished, you're going to want to start smoothing out those lower coils before they get too hard to work with. So card those smooth. Then you can go back and work that surface. Now, one thing I like about interesting about coils is you can see this is another pot. You can kind of leave, you can accent the change if you want. I smoothed it. This is an older one where I smoothed it, so I left that kind of edge on there. Or you can make it a smooth transition. Like on this one, I think I'm just going to smooth it out, right? I'm not going to leave that edge on there. So you can do some cool things as you go. So on this one, I'm going to try to work that edge, that transition, into more of a smooth transition instead of leaving that angle on there. That's just an option for you. This is another trick. Now, in my earlier video I did this, but I had a bump right here, right? Sometimes, your coils aren't always perfectly even. You can take if you have some bumps, right, you can take what is that thing? A paper clip, and kind of even that out. All right, that way, especially if you're doing transitions, if you're about to do it in transition, you're going to want the next coil to be very even if you're going to start to go in or out. Smooth the inside of the pot with the rounded part of our card. And you can get it pretty smooth. Now, it's not going to be super important, but if you're ever going to put water in there or something, you wouldn't want holes. You wouldn't want spots where things can get dirty in there, right? So smooth it out as best you can. And you can also think about a lip. You can see on the pot on the right, I've added a coil as a lip. So we want to think about the lip and whether or not you want a lip. So you can see in the one on the right, I stacked coils up here to form a neck, and then an additional coil or two coming out to form a lip, which can be really nice. A lot of vases and pots have lips. So on this one, that's what I'm trying to decide what to do. Right? If I put one more coil on, right, I can have a nice lip if I put it on the outside. And just smooth that in. Maybe I'll do that in a different video just to show you how to do it. One more thing to think about is okay, so this pot is dry, and I'm putting a wet coil on there. So make sure, if you have those days when your pot's been sitting and starting to dry, that you score and slip the first coil, because you're going from wet onto drier. And you can see it's not super dry, obviously, but still I want to make sure that connection is really good the first time. So decide where you want to place your coil. Get some water on there. Remember, you're trying to create slip, or that mud that's going to connect the two. Once I see lots of mud, place your coil and do the same thing that we normally do. Okay? So if you take your time with each coil, you're going to get the shape you want. You're going to get what you want. And then once you have your basic shape, we'll talk about getting it really smooth and then adding some texture. So have fun with this. Enjoy the coil building process. Once you get into a rhythm, you can do a lot fairly quickly.